Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching The Boys Season 2, Episode 4, Nothing Like It in the World. Now, after the three-part premiere of The Boys Season 2, this episode definitely delves more into Stormfront surpassing Homefront when it comes to popularity, as well as dealing with a bunch of characters going through their own dilemmas as we find out more about Stormfront's possible true identity, some shakeups to the Seven, and also having how Billy Butcher gets to meet his wife one more time. Basically, this episode happens to not only act as a transitionary episode towards where certain characters will be in the future, but it also happens to comment on a lot of current issues in the typical satirical way the Boys does. And I'm generally seeing how Anthony Starr and Aya Cash are working well together whenever they have scenes, particularly when they're together. Stormfront, as we all know, is the one responsible for the massacre that happened in the last episode, but of course it was all covered up and blamed all blamed on the female's brother. Kimiko, as you'd imagine, is not thrilled, and I do like the fact that Frenchie is still looking out for her even when he's as high as a kite and when he's still drinking and hanging around with Cherie. On top of that, we got to see more about Mother's Milk's character. I always thought Mother's Milk was one of the less interesting members of the Boys, mainly just him being the guy who usually is the one who argues the most with Butcher and the one who loves his girlfriend and his kid the most. But here, we actually delve more into his past. We learn more about his father when he's talking with Starlight, like in the donut shop, or when he's talking to Miss Hunter about her talking to her before learning about her experience with a superheroine named Liberty, and the fact that Liberty may or may not be Stormfront. Like, Liberty could be Stormfront, and that might be the case, but considering how racially discriminatory both heroines are at this point, it could be more than likely that they are. But Aya Cash, Homelander, much like Homelander, she actually decides to, keep that part of her personality away from the public. She actually presents herself as, just generally being in the good interest of everybody. But instead of Homefront just being a general all-American good boy, Stormfront's more like that edgy woman who uses memes and cultural influence and points out the flaws of Vought to her advantage. Essentially a villain with good publicity, in a similar fashion to Homelander, but using a different modern spin on it that Homelander isn't used to because he's unable to change with the times, as you could say. And I think that makes for an interesting version of her character, especially when it differs her so greatly from the comics. But, and like I just said, Aya Cash just nails it in the role when she has to deal with any scene where she's with Homelander. I also said that the relationship between Starlight and Huey was one of the weaker aspects of season 1. I it's not that their chemistry is bad, it's more just something that I've seen before. And while that criticism generally stays the same here, I do like their little discussions, how they have their small talk, particularly with candy bars like Almond Joy. You can not if you told me that they could make several conversations about Almond Joys entertaining, then I wouldn't have believed you if you told me. But alongside that, we also got to see another appearance from Doppelganger, who I always felt was kind of a interesting character when it comes to his role with other superheroes or just Vought executives. And I generally think his power does delve into the power perversion potential of a lot of superheroic abilities, which I normally thought would just be stuff we'd use for fan fiction fodder, but The Boys weaves it in a way that makes sense within its universe. And Homelander also outs Queen Maeve live on the Maria Menounos show. Because he's Homelander and he can do whatever the heck he wants. And I know some of it was mainly so he could get better publicity for his hero, especially considering he ended up firing A-Train, the only black guy on the team. But I wonder how that'll turn out, not only with A-Train leaving, but also with the relationship being found out. And also, I don't know what's going on with the Deep, with that ending scene, with that second to last scene, but if they're really playing on the redemption arc, I guess they're just laying more groundwork for it. So I think this is another solid episode, and I'll see you guys next week.